Okay, folks, so this episode was the Danny showing her whole ass episode. Now, I'm going to give this one solid 8 out of 10. This is Beyond the Gates episode 85. Now, going to the police station, and yeah, at this point, we're probably going to see Jacob and, Martin scene, Jacob and Smitty scenes as much as we used to see the cat and Cat and Jacob scenes. Now, I think one interesting dynamic here is the fact that Jacob is kind of taken aback by Smitty and the fact that he's, I guess you could say, one, more polite, level headed, and he's way more respectful than Cat, where you got Smitty who's working on this article and, he's trying to dig any sort of dirt to get to the facts. Whereas Kat is bending the rules to her will in order to get Leslie and by extension Eva locked up behind bars. And I feel like, those are the different dynamics of the passion and the reasons behind they're doing what they're doing. You got Kat who's on a path of vengeance to get, revenge on Leslie and Eva for what they did to her family, which makes sense. But the thing is, she's willing to do underhanded things in order to get what she wants, and she expects Jacob to do the same in order to speed up the legal process. He's not willing to do it. Smitty, on the other hand, is showing kindness, understanding, and yeah, he has, his reporter intuition, and we know Kat has a similar intuition where she's right, but her methods, basically Jacob is the ends don't justify the means, and Kat is opposed to that way of thinking. Smitty is wanting to do things the legal way though, so you could tell that his dynamic with Smitty is much better than his dynamic with Kat, where he says he doesn't mind having Kat around as a junior detective. It's been sort of fun, but she can be very pushy and annoying though. But Smitty brings him coffee, which shocks him because, wow, it's like, you brought me drinkable coffee. And, my own partner, the detective, doesn't do that kind of thing, which I find to be interesting because I don't believe I've seen Kat bring coffee for Jacob. All she brings to his desk is attitude. So, yeah, Smitty doing that sort of thing, I could tell definitely threw Jacob off for a bit. Now, they mentioned how the good detective, has been a bit nervous and shook by the investigation going on. And it's like the more that either Malone or Jacob's father tells him to back off, the more Smitty and Jacob is like, again, they wouldn't be this adamant about dropping this interview or this story if there wasn't anything to uncover. So they're also looking at the possibility that there could have been other cops involved with this situation. And not only could there be dirty deeds that the detective is trying to hide, but there could be other cops with similar dirt as well. So from there, Smitty wants the detective to know that he was hacked. That way, they can put pressure on him and maybe crack his mask. That way, it's not a situation where he's suspecting that, the only reason I know about, about this account stuff is because you looked into it. It's like, no, let's try to divert his suspicion. Because something big that they're trying to hide happened those 2 years ago. And this isn't about some cop taking money. There's some more to it than this. So they go over the evidence once again of the various payments. And Smitty keeps asking Martin about his suspicious behavior, but each and every time he does, Martin shuts him down. But that's his character. We know how he is by now. So Jacob then decides to look over the calendar, and he finds out that oh, you know what, that same day I took the detective exam. And he thinks back about bumping into someone on that day, and he's like, I don't know who it was. Smitty's like, you know what, it's late, maybe it's time I go home and we follow up later. So he appreciates Jacob having his back. Again, he just shows appreciation and kindness, which is a sharp contrast to Kat, where if Jacob gives Kat an answer she doesn't want, whether it be, hey, I haven't been able to find out from one of my sources yet, or no, Kat, we can't do that, or Kat, you need to stay out of it, what does she do? Give him attitude and then huffs off. But Jacob, is receiving kindness from Smitty, which I find to be, again, just a sharp contrast. And that's something that a lot of fans don't really talk about. More people talk about, oh, Elon and he's dirty too, Jacob needs to watch out. But I don't really think I've seen people compare the dynamic of Jacob and Smitty to Jacob and Kat. So as soon as Smitty leaves, that if any of this stuff could come back to Martin, he'll drop it. But from there, that's it. So that's when Jacob's dad pops up and asks if he's good. But it's the fact that hey, you look more worried and upset than that time you broke your mother's Boys to Men collection. Man, talk about throwback. But then Jacob flashes back to bumping into his dad on the night of the detective exam, and his dad was running off. And he tells his dad that something major went down 2 years ago. But remember, he didn't tell Smitty about the man that he bumped into. So that's when the detective has been giving him excuses about the Smitty situation. But despite that, the reporter isn't letting this story go. So, Dad, is there anything that you think that'll be just undercover or uncovered? But the thing is, his dad sits down with him and they talk. Jacob recounts the night that happened 2 years ago and the fact that, Dad, you were in street clothes, like something was wrong. But then bumped my notebook. But then that's when Elon's still like, look, I taught you the importance of standing on more than just your people, and I taught you values. So that's when he's like, what happened on that night, Dad? And that's when Elon takes a moment and is like, look, none of this adds up. You have a passion for justice, son, but I think that passion is making you see things that aren't really there, whether it be patterns, theories, conspiracies. There's nothing there. And you need to let these ghosts go. And then that's when Jacob's like, you know what, whatever you say. So you could tell there's some underlying tension here. And despite his dad telling him to let it go, you know good and well that Jacob isn't. So then we go over to Martin's house. What is it with these damn kids this week? So Samantha gets home and complains that Martin killed her vibes by calling her back from her sing-along. And he tells her that there's no emergency, but you're going to stay here tonight and there's going to be no sleepovers. Now, remember, this is obviously in connection to his concerns about finding Kenneth there with his son, that he wants to make sure all of his kids are under the same roof. So that's when tells her that her dad is overreacting, or their dad is overreacting because I had somebody over here playing chess. So Martin's like, look, I'm a target due to my political position, and we need to be careful. Like, you shouldn't invite strangers over to the house. And once again, he doesn't go into full details as to why the Kenneth thing set him off, but Terrell complains like, look, you're just helicopter parenting us. That's it. And then Sam is like, you're being barbaric, Dad. Now, she isn't getting any kind of sympathy. Basically, she's upset her night is ruined. Her brother's upset his night is ruined. So Martin tells them, like, look, you're on social media, so you must know that the world is getting harder and darker, and I just want to make sure you're safe. And I know you two are good kids, but being good won't keep you safe. And he gives them a hug, but they go upstairs to catch him on TV. But, Martin grabs his baseball bat and sits on the couch. Oh, no. This reminds me of the flashback to that night where didn't he have a crowbar or something? So as he's sleeping, he dreams of the night of 2 years ago. And Smitty wakes him up and tells him that I'm home and I'm safe. And he tells Martin, like, look, why are you sleeping with a baseball bat? Let the smoke screen down. Let me in. Tell me what's happening. So yet again, Smitty urges him to tells him, like, tell me what happened. It was 2 years ago because we need to face this together before it ruins them both. Martin's like, I love you, but if I'm holding something back, it's because I'm protecting you, I'm protecting our family, and I'm protecting our future. And I'm exhausted. So Smitty helps him up to the bedroom. And that's when we go over to the casino. And I like this scene. It was pretty slick. You got, Joey chilling, feet up on the poker table. And Marcel brings Randy back into the casino. And Joey reminds him, like, I gave you a job, Randy, when no one else would. Remember that? Remember how I found you? And another reason I hired you on is because I thought you had potential and I thought you were smart. But the thing is, you messed up. You thought that you were smarter than me, that you can outsmart me. And then it's like, look, I was going to pay you back. So what? What was the plan? You were going to fly out of the country and think that I'd forget about you? Oh no, I wouldn't forget about you, because it turns out you were on your way to Bali. And I bet you only packed for warm weather, huh? But that's too bad. It's cold where you're going. That's when Brandy's like, look, here's the thing. I shot him. I shot at Kenny, but the gun jammed before I could finish the job, and then he ran. And then that's when, he grabbed the money. He only took $10,000 because he needed to, some time to think about before coming back to make things right with Joey. And he offers to fix this. But that's when Joey's like, nah, the ship has sailed. There are no second chances. And it's like, so you're going to kill me? Oh no, I don't get my hands dirty. That's what the detective is here for. So before the detective could take Randy out to take care of him, that's when Vanessa and Doug show up, and Randy suggested they go, but then Joey urges them, to walk as well. That's when Doug stands up for his boy, and then Joey tells him to mind his own business. So they mention how they've been tailing Randy all night, and that's when Vanessa assumes he's planning to take Randy out of the equation, but she insists that they take Randy home instead. So that's when Joey tells him, hey, get back, because this is something that I'm handling, and Doug, you need to check your woman. And that's when Doug says that, hey, Randy is going to walk with us, or things are going to get very complicated up in here. And then Vanessa adds it would be shameful to throw away what they've built, given that, she'll make sure Randy disappears without being harmed. But from there, Randy is surprised by this. Joey says that you can live for now, but you better not count your blessings. Or you better count your blessings, because you might not have too many days left. So even though he lets Randy leave with Doug, he orders Vanessa to stay. And Doug isn't sure it would be wise, but Vanessa's like, no, it's fine. So those two leave to go get a beer. And that's when Joey lectures her for crossing the line. And that's when she starts feeling him up, and he tells her to never do that again. And then they start going at it. So we go over to Uptown, and man, let's just talk about this interruption, if you will. So Ashley tells Andre that Danny is staring at him, and then that's when she walks over to the table with a cocktail. And we know how Danny is when she gets a bit tipsy. So she just plops down, and Ashley says, like, you're interrupting our time. Like, what's going on? And that's when Danny's surprised to see them two, together, and wonders if it's their first time on a date. So it's like, I'm just sitting here wondering if this entire conversation is going over Ashley's head, or if she senses that there's something going on between Andre and Danny, or what. But there is a lot of shade thrown, because essentially Andre and Danny go back and forth about her feeling betrayed, and Danny not, wanting to go public with Andre. And then, so essentially she throws shade about Andre being the king of revolving doors, and asks if Ashley is just another pit stop. And that's when Andre claps back, saying that, there was someone who I thought I could be real with, but the woman kept, fighting because of her past and treated me like a side piece. And she had main character energy just like someone else I know. And then from there, that's when Ashley says that, wow, anyone that let Andre slip away is crazy. That's when Danny's like, you know what? That's a valid point. And that's when Andre's like, well, I wouldn't call this woman crazy. It's just that I try not to judge anyone's journey, but the most important thing to me is that you got to keep it real, and you got to be consistent. So I think Ashley, in her mind, is thinking that this is the woman that Andre was dating not too long ago. Basically, remember when Derek invited Andre over for dinner, and then he left for a booty call? That's who Ashley is saying or thinking this is. At least I think so. And that's when she says, well, I don't know. Maybe he wasn't worth keeping a torch lit for. And then that's when it's like, you know what? I never leave a lady unsatisfied. And then Danny's like, except for one. And then Ashley's like, you know what? I think I need to leave and go to bed. So she goes to the restroom, but then Danny mocks her and saying that, oh, it's like you would take precious Ashley out for a date. And then, you know what? You're just hating Danny because you realize what you threw away because I'm with someone else now. So she is in her Danny mode and Andre doesn't want to hear it. So, you know what? This is boring me. And he's like, no, you're not. She's not boring. You're just annoying. And you're just a flip-flopper. 1 minute you want me, next thing you know, you're running out the bill. And Danny's like, well, I don't think you can handle complexity. And that's why he's going to run for someone. And this is the line that killed me. It's like, you're crazy. You'd run after someone so basic that she makes vanilla look spicy. And then that's when she's just continuing to trash talk. And then Ashley comes back and her and Andre out to bounce. And I think that they offer to take her home. But, she's like, no, I'm just going to sit here and enjoy this empty drink and drink to my empty life. So then they leave. And then Danny's like, just sitting there. And it's just crazy to me because the biggest question that I think fans have to ask is whether or not it's fair for Danny to feel the way she feels. Like, on some level, I get it. I mean, let me put it this way. If her and Andre were still in the shadows, so to speak, like what they were doing wasn't made public, then I feel like it wouldn't have been as bad. That's how I look at it. But I think at this point, when you have Andre saying like, you know what, I'd never hurt you the way that Bill did and this, that, and the third, it just makes Andre look bad because of the fact that 1 minute you're the one pleading to be more than just a side piece or someone Danny keeps locked up, underneath the bed. But the moment you go public, so to speak, you're on a date with another woman. But then again, like I said, if you take that out of the equation, Danny's like, what about all those times you were running after Bill and you kissed Bill and this, that, and the third? And here you have Andre holding hands with someone and you're throwing a fit. So, yeah, it really does look bad on both parts, but I'd say that it mostly looks bad on Andre. So, with that being said, what did you think about episode 85? Like and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next episode review.